Hello and welcome. I see there are people here. That is very juicy. I am new to YouTube Live. So if you can write something in the chat so I know who's here. And if I don't know you, who are you? Tell me more. My name is been given to me. And I've claimed many other names. I always have this hard time, like, my name is, I'm like, wait, that's not how I actually want to introduce myself, which is all new and holy. I'm the Whollyculturist. I'm also known as the artist named Pookie. My given name is Stephanie Rachel Gutenplan. I am 33 years old and I am based in Durango, Colorado. And I founded the idea of the Holy School. And I've gathered a tribe and group of people to support me in birthing this thing. So we can't do it alone. And the intention of this live, of this message, of this channel is to bring to you the theme that has been birthed at the Holy School as it has been softly opening. And I'm sure, hi, Nikki. I'm sure that all that the Holy School is will come forward as well. I'm doing this to just launch the ripple effect. Hey, Cass. Launch the ripple effect of the message getting out in all of the ways. And so the theme goes very much with the birthing of the Holy School. And I want to jump in, and I also want to just take a moment to breathe and settle into the space. I'm going to check my technology. As a founder, I get just to do things first and see how all of these things work. I posted it as well at the same time in the Holy School, and I just kind of want to see what it looks like. Okay, so it's embedded in a post and I can press. Okay, cool. Hey, Sarah. Oh, look, all the beautiful people are here. Okay, great. So I'm going to take a moment to settle in, let go of technology. It's not how I really wanted to post, but that's okay. It's holy. It's new. I really want it to look like how it does on the grandiose thing of Facebook, where you can just see it happening, but it is how it is in this moment. So releasing it, it's holy and learning. Welcome to the Holy Messages. This will be my intention of this one particular stream of contribution of offering that I do to the Holy School is to pass the message of the Holy School at large, to gather, I'm connected to all the contributors, the members, as well as looking like sometimes an eagle, sometimes a hawk, sometimes a butterfly, sometimes bee. All of the different embodiments of how we separate ourselves to like witness and observe, to see what's alive, to see what's there, and bringing the messages to the collective at large. So first off, the Holy School, I knew I would start sweating, but I was a little cold. The Holy School is a virtual institute. It's more or less a gym or a shop or a study or a classroom or a community, like whatever that thing you're looking for that you can continue to come back to. It's in a monthly or yearly subscription. We do it in a way where we bring themes based off of whatever's real and relevant. So the more that people are there, the more that people contribute, the more that people interact, the more that people engage, the more that people share, the more we know about our collective, so that we can curate this to be really individualized experience for the community we have brought forward, so that we can have these themes be places of inspiration for our contributors to witness them, to take them in, to read them, to sit with them, to sit with these themes and say, how can I gather my content to make it as real and relevant and new, meeting nowness. I am a mystic Jew, and I've been actually reading a book that is great. I'm going to share it. The telling. And it's about the Haggadah, which is a book that we read on Passover. It's the one day, it's the one holiday in which we normally invite a lot of goyim over. We invite a lot of non-Jewish claiming people to come and gather, because this is the moment in which us as Jews left Egypt and got lost in the desert for 40 years. It was the initial leaving, and there's so many parts of this story that are vital to there's a vitality to the wisdom that this book brings, that we reread this book every single time it's Passover, so that we relearn it from a place of, this is who I am now reading it and learning it as if the first time, so that I can integrate, not skip over, not miss the magic of the wisdom that is here. And that is the essence that I've injected into the Holy School, is that, we all have our mechanisms, we all have our values, we all think we know how all of this works. And there's this thing of saying that I say often is, if we think we know everything, then am I allowed to cuss on YouTube? Does anyone know? I want to drop an F-bomb. Then we're effed. Because then we stop investigating. And I heard recently from another sister, and it's integrating in my system, is like, we must know, we must trust, we must choose, and we must use our wisdom. And like, there's like, what I'm speaking about is the arrogance of like not looking again, right? Or the naiveness of knowing it all. You can swear. Thank you, Nikki. You're fucked. And so how do we use our wisdom, and how do we meet something new? How do we gather the wisdom that's already here and available? So that's the whole idea of being holy, is that there's a whole picture, that maybe everything that we think we know, that maybe it's just the iceberg. It's not just with self, it's not just with other, it's not just how the world works, it's not humanity, it's like, how can we begin to wonder and re-meet it as this world is reopening? I have astrologers all over the place in the Holy School, and they're like, the initiation, the soft opening is the perfect date for the moon, and I am feeling this moon. I don't know who else, but actually I do. I've connected to plenty of people who are going through some deep healing and crying and mourning and releasing and like a rockiness right now. I don't know anything about the moon. I just know that I feel it. And I don't want to blame the moon or be like, oh, it's because I just use it. And I hear that this is the perfect time. But really the timing of this is, one, like the world's reopening. And I am so ecstatic and empowered and inspired by the amount of assembling that's happening, of creation, of team, of collaboration, of let's have this world open and let's transform it, let's move it, let's do this. And I see that assembly happening, and I must know as a Whollyculturist that the other, I don't want to say the other side because we all have it, that also the devil within us, the hell within us, for those who let that lead them, if that feels intentional and purposeful for them, I will not claim them wrong or the other side. It's just another version. It's another choice. If we choose to have it reopen one way or reopen another way, one is in this newness, right? It's in this never happened before. And there's one that's we must, control, or there's like a scarcity, or there's a fear, or there's a revenge. It's just the shadow of the same thing. I'm using all of this past year because if it's anything like mine, and you've had a hell of a year. And I have to say that the transformations that I've seen was so necessary. It felt like the world was shaking us, like, wake up now. You must wake up now. I love you, Nikki. Thank you for being part of our contribution in our creation. And so as this is all happening, of the assembling of the light, I know it's also assembling in this other side. And I don't want to call it the dark. And there's assembling of the gray. There's assembling of like a mixture of in between, right? There's assembling of all. And so being the holy school, I'm inviting the all. I even, I'm a shadow worker. I'm a deep, deep, deep shadow worker. And I believe in going there. And it's very easily to get lost there. I know I'm more comfortable in the shadow. It's actually like comfortable to be as lively and purposeful and joyful and light, because that's actually the magnetic, and we stick out, and there's all this, now everyone has an opinion of how this should be done, right? There's great responsibility in being a light worker because it's the one being seen, and it's the one judged. And so there's been a quite a vulnerable experience of me, of exposing of self, of claiming these things, and hearing all of, and feeling all of the comparison of what it should look of what it should look like, of what I should look like, of how old I should be, of how much experience I should have, of like what a founder of an institute is. I'm feeling all of that projection from everyone else because everyone has an opinion, including me. I think I should look different or be different or whatever. If you think I don't have an internal dialogue too, right? It's all medicine here. It's all holy. And so whether you are invited as a contributor or a member, or you're free or whatever, I know there's this scariness. I can feel it. So that's why it's a soft opening. That's why the moon is the way that it is. It's all because there's like, this is a choice into actually being a holy culturist, of gathering everything there is about wholeness and spirituality in a time of rebirth. I have the doors softly opening. I even reset the space with my right-hand woman, Kess, and some of the contributors and some members, just to really set the foundation, set prayer, do action, look at ourselves, look at humanity, set intention, so that we can really set the context of this space. So as it softly opens, however you choose to settle in, you can settle in. The thing about the Holy School is it's an online platform for people who are here to study and spread the word that this might all be holy, and to spread experiences and wisdom and integration practices, and to make an effect in humanity, so that we can rise together, we can work together, we can collaborate together. Thank you, Sarah. It was a beautiful ceremony. I really enjoyed it. It was really beautiful. Thank you for being a part of that opening. And afterwards, I felt so on point. There's a prayer that came on as one of our last songs, and it's a prayer from the arena of Judaism. And I just felt this weep. And it felt archaic and old, like it's been, my elders thanking me as it came down my cheeks, and it was so sweet. It had me know this is it. And the scariest thing is, I don't know how it will grow, because I'm just opening it up for people who want to be in contribution. Let it be known that there's an onboarding process, because there are some things that like just don't fit. And that will just get to be a discussion. There is an application process to become a contributor. And I am open to it going in a bunch of different ways. And it's been an interesting process to see who will be here and what themes will be here. And of course, with what contributors will be here, that will be the magnet of what parts of humanity will be here. So as of right now, we have things from astrologers to people from the future, to people from the past, to elders, to Reiki masters, to yogis, to people who work with elements, to conscious relators, to soulpreneurs and business-oriented people, to the energy between masculine and feminine, to light workers, to shadow workers. We are calling in some social justice and equality workers. We have gender as a topic, sexuality as a topic. We have things going on in here that not only are current day of like what's happening in the world, and as well as like the arts and creative and expression, and how to like actually be authentically us and have our life by design. But then there's also the deep healers that also exist in our space. So who knows what will come and what intentions will come, but it's vital that we know yours as a member. So as we softly open, I invite you to softly open yourself up, to introduce yourself, to risk a little bit into the space, share something you might not share in other spaces, and to dig into these articles. As members, you can respond to all of the articles, and you can also, there'll be polls and quizzes and all of these other things. You can come to these events, you can write in the chat. We also have Zooms where you can come and actually gather and for the more interactive things. We will have experiences, there will be music, there will be ritual, there will be ceremony, there will be Reiki distance healing, there will be yoga. There will be panelists of a bunch of contributors coming on here to be given themes or questions or prompts to really have them digest between each other. There'll be random collaborations between contributors who feel like they speak the same language, or maybe they want to digest something from different perspectives, and to really have this be a place of discovery. And it's based off of everyone's intention of right now and for this year and for what they're working for. And whatever obstacles are here right now, whatever's getting in the way for that being something that can be shared in a really neutral way, in a way of, this is, like, not in a way of me telling the whole story of my life, but in the intimate way of, mourning is, I'm having a hard time letting go of the guilt that I have of everything left unsaid. This is the wisdom I'm looking for. What mantra, what yoga, what breath work, what meditation, what a creative expression, what ritual, what ceremony, what distinction can I integrate? What offerings are here for me, knowing this? Even what groups are there currently that I can do it? What stories are there currently where someone else is going through it, right? In the study of humanities, if that were to be it, right? And so one of the first themes right now is the softly opening. And as we softly open, it's to discover and see what our intentions are. What is actually in the way of our intentions happening? Not in a way of judging them, that's why it's soft. Not in a way of diminishing them because they're just. Not in the way of shoving them beside or pretending like they're not there because they're holy. The things that are in the way are just points of work for us to really unlock parts of ourselves to get to know ourselves a little better, a little bit more really, a little bit more in reality, so that we can elevate ourselves and be able to navigate, digest life a bit more simply. So that is the theme of right now and of this month. And the sneak peek of next month is once the door softly opens and once we become aware. There's a loudest cricket. My cat just went wild. Once we become aware, once we become present, we hear all the loud crickets within us. Then we're able to settle in to this newness of unfamiliarity, of grayness. And we get to choose what areas we settle into ourselves. So as we softly open the invitation, I'm going to do it right now. And there's a guest coming eventually. She'll probably be here any moment. I have a feeling it will come perfectly when that time is. It's one of our contributors, so I'm just going to introduce her when she gets here. She's in town from the land of Boston. Just clearing out any of the whatever about being live and, exposing self. So when I really settle in and I softly open, I can see shadow, and I can see dust, and I can see shit, and I can see trauma, and I can see where I've been hurt, and I can see where I've taken things personally, where I'm holding on to them, and then where I come to assumptions. So I show up differently with people based off of the assumptions because I have been cleansed. And I've acknowledged these parts of myself. So the shadow within me gets louder and it gets critical because I have all of these things within me that are just like stuck in dust and knives, those knifey comments and the things that really trigger us, or those exchanges that just feel dirty and it makes your like skin crawl a little bit. Like those have been collected. And no matter what, we're going to have some collection. If you're able to fully cleanse yourself, then hey, you've had a moment. You've had your like Jesus, Buddha, whatever moment. And then I'm sure you'll get tagged again. I see you're coming. And so the act of all of this is to introduce Anna right now. I'll get back to that. It's great. We're going to go into discussion.
Okay.
Just take a moment.
Are we alone? Or is there someone else?
There's people on.
Oh, I thought you were talking to someone.
Oh, no, we're live.
Oh. Hi, everybody.
We're live at the Holy School. This is Anna. How did we meet? That was how many years ago now?
I want to say 3.
Was it 3
Ish.
now?
Time is like a weird thing for me, to be totally honest with you. Like, what is time? I think it's about 3 years.
We had a phone call, and I still remember like the sensation of walking around my place in Oakland talking to you about you and your life, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to meet this woman. Thank God she's coming to Oakland to do this thing, and I get to witness and work with her.
Yeah, that was like right after my awakening experience on the bench. And I had literally nobody who understood what that was or what that meant. So I was like so desperate to talk to you and just like share it all and be like, you're going to help me.
I was walking vigorously around my countertop, just like, oh my gosh, great.
Yeah. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, I'm so proud for you. Thank you. Doesn't actually sound like that.
So I was actually just speaking about the theme of the Holy School.
Okay.
And it's kind of perfect. So actually Anna's in town to support a sister of ours who is a new mama to a beautiful baby Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband is fighting fires right now. And so she came in town to come help Whollyculturist and fights fires. So I went and had dinner, and we had this beautiful conversation. I'm not just going to expose all of the things.
All like open book.
All of the deep secrets of Anna. But it's kind of perfect for the theme, so I'm just going to say it to you. So if you were to softly open, and I was just doing it with myself, so I'm just inviting you into the conversation. We'll just kind of dive together.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Great.
I love how we never have plans. Okay, so the idea is if you softly open, like the softly opening of the Holy School is also a softly opening of self to see what's there. And as you like softly observe yourself, and when you see your shit, it's not to like diminish, push, resist, but just like to witness and see what's there. And to see like what we might have collected in our shadows as we softly open ourselves to see like where we might want to choose to like not even fix, but just to observe ourselves first.
To love.
Yeah, to observe, to love. Because I find that like when the shadow gets really knifey, if I have a bunch of fucking knives in I learned I can cuss on Facebook Live, so I'm just going to do it. There's a bunch of knives in me, then like I'm going to walk around guarded or defensive or with assumption or like not purely me because I'm carrying some shit that's mine that I haven't worked through. That might have come from someone else, but really they're just like, hey, you probably should work right here. So then my shadow turns into critical and judgy and fearful and scarce. And so in mine, it's particularly in relationship of like being fully light, compassionate, and like unraveled.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what it feels like for you.
That's been a big part of my journey in the last, several years, but certainly this past year is, those parts that I just want to like shove away, push down. Yeah. Like hate, like go away. And they're typically the voices that like hate on me internally too, is to like wholeness to me is accepting fully all of the pieces, including the ones that are fractured or that feel broken or hard. And so how can I like hold it all with love and compassion and connecting to the fact that those are wounded, and what do we need when we're wounded or hurt, like to just be held in love. So I literally like, I'll just put my hand on my heart and be like, you're okay. I love you. You're okay. And it's, to your point, been really cool to be around such a new life. Like he's just 9 weeks old and all he needs is just to be held and to feel safe. And it's not different when we're older, it's just something that we get to source and create for ourselves. internally.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lifelong journey, you know. I keep being like, oh, I'm gonna be healed. I'm in the process.
You're not healed yet. I'm sorry, Lyle. Lyle's our mascot, and sometimes I get a little too passionate for his ears.
Yeah, I kind of just want to get to the end point. So I like that softly, that just like continuously taking a look. I almost think of like titration, you know, just like letting the little bits through. And then the more I find for myself, the more I heal and the more safe space I create for myself, the more can reveal itself and the more can be seen, like, for me internally. So
beautiful. Yeah. While you were saying that, I was thinking of this memory where and it was while I was in grad school of visual arts, studying photography, and I had these Turkish twins, and they were quite royalty. They're like royal twins that were studying art with me, and we became really close friends. And I made this. I took them to my dorm, and it was actually my first day of sobriety, and I asked them to walk me home. I didn't realize I was telling this story, but okay. And to walk me home because I was scared. In New York, you walk from one side of town to the other, you're walking at least by 15 bars. And that was like a routine walk for me. So like knowing all the bartenders and and everyone's like, oh, 7-8, you know, like, and I'm like, you know, like trying just not to pick up a drink. So I asked them to walk me home, and we wound up getting tea at this one place where I felt like the bartender that was my friend was also like, would understand. And that, cause I just, yeah. And so we went there, and then we came back, and I was showing them my stuff, and I was moving my hands through all of it. And I'm such a visual and physical person that I was weaving through everything with my hands as I was showing them my art and these handmade books I have. And they're somewhere over there still. They're great. And they're like, the way that you move your hands is like quite beautiful, how you love things. And then what I heard from somewhere else that was not in the room was like, well, imagine if you were to hold your heart the same. And I was just like, and so then they had to go, and I had to like cry, you know, like that's the whole reason why I drank. It was like, that's all like really scary to be hearing all the time. And, you know, like I didn't really know how to handle it and all this other stuff. So I wasn't like fully equipped to be so connected. So, and that's holy. Like I would go to AA meetings, and I would just look around and be like, these are all the most magical people that have just a really uncomfortable time being so spiritually connected. So we're trying to make this experience a little bit more easy for us because we've been handed it upside down. Instead of an awakening, it's like, hey, you're awakened and not healed and you're traumatic. And here you go experience life like extra vulnerably with like the weirdness of spirituality already evoked in you, and try and handle it.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I think I actually just watched a really awesome video that I would highly recommend.
Okay, great.
The Wisdom of Trauma. And it's by Dr. Gabor Mate, I think that's how you pronounce it. He used to be a physician, and now he works with people, addicted populations.
Oh, beautiful.
Because he sees everything through the lens of trauma, right? And he thinks, you know, we put this certain stigma on addiction, right, that we can see around substances or drugs and things like that, but we all do it
in like, a billion different ways.
Yeah, like the ways we numb and avoid and watch TV and shop or have sex or date serially, or for me, weed is the biggest one, has been historically anyways. And that's just like the way that we've coped with the trauma that exists inside of our system. And so how can we reconnect, like you said, to our hearts and start to just love those pieces? But it's not like in that moment you're like, oh yay, great, like yeah, I'll hold my heart with that same love.
Set, yeah. I feel like it's like, let me softly try and even find it first. Yeah. Okay, cool, now I'm touching it. Can I stay touching it for longer than 3 seconds without freaking out and being like, oh, I did it, you know?
That's it too. It's like you don't just stay there forever. Like you can find it, and then you'll probably get pulled by things, and then you find it, like refinding it.
You're either coming back to alignment to it, or you're going away. And it's just touch points. I think that's what it is. So to be holy, like I have an intention of being open, well, then my navigation of the entire day will be how to like continue to come back to wholeness or to openness or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the other thing that we tend to do is like all of a sudden everyone's 110% committed. First off, that's not possible. Second off, you're already screwed because you're going to break down and then you're going to be just as hard as yourself as saying that you're going to be 110% committed, because that's putting way too much responsibility on your spine. And it's imperfect. You're imperfect. We are flawed. We are all traumatized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my recent commitment, more than to anything concrete or with ways to show up in the world, is like radical compassion. Radical compassion. Like, for real, I just like keep repeating the words inside my head, like, oh, you're having a bad day and you're just gonna like do nothing today? Great. So good that you're honoring that.
You are my medicine woman right now. Radical compassion. I'm integrating that in my spine right now. And with, okay, that's really beautiful.
Like, wherever you are, whatever is happening, it's perfect.
It's holy.
You're okay.
No, it's all okay.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I started sitting with tea and doing daily just tea ceremonies. And the woman who taught me how to do that, she said that the first rule, or probably actually not the first rule, but one of the rules.
First rule that's ever existed about tea.
Yeah, is once the ceremony begins, everything is perfect. And I was like, wow, that's just my motto for life now. I'm just going to expand that, like, life is my ceremony. And everything is always perfect.
I've recently claimed being a ritualist.
Nice.
And at first I was like, oh my God, that means I have a lot of research to do because I have to know all of the rituals. I was just like, oh God, that feels so overwhelming. And so I like never really said it, but like all of my art is ritual. I mean, I made a tarot deck, like that is a ritual. You know, I make books, it's a ritual. And like most of my books, you don't sit down and read the whole thing. You read like a poem and then you're like, whoa, okay, I just felt the poison of Pookie today. And then I'm going to put it down and come back to it in a month. Like that's what these things are for.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you feel like you need it or want it or desire it or feel called to it that you go to my work, you know, like it's not sustainable, or maybe it is if you just pick a card every day or read a poem, if that's what you want to do. But, you know, when it comes down to it, like claiming ritualist actually had me be like, oh, I'm just putting emphasis on my intention around my routine.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say. I think literally anything can be a ritual.
Anything.
If you bring intention and presence, like your morning cup of coffee, like the first breath you take, any breath you take, like those can all be, you can ritualize anything. I'm
quite the chain smoker, and I've been turning smoking cigarettes into a ritual, and the amount of cigarettes that I smoke are less.
I love that that's the consequence.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And there's sometimes where I'm like, fuck it, I'm anxious. This is when I'm using my voice, and here we go. You know, like
that's where the radical compassion.
Yeah, and then like, okay, great, we're gonna have an extra cigarette right now. That's not gonna be so ritualistic. Yeah, no fucking prayer.
I found that when I put rules for myself, or say like, you can't. This is no longer. You don't do this.
Thank you for bringing this up. Okay,
it doesn't work. It has the opposite effect.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I will just allow myself to listen and do whatever, you know, feels like the right thing. And then based on how that feels, I just continue to make decisions, you know. Putting rigid boundaries doesn't support me.
Yeah, and if you softly open yourself and you see the rigid boundaries, then how many parts of ourselves are we actually not allowing ourselves to access, right? Like I always think of my journey through recovery and addiction and navigating. And, you know, I sat down and they were like, these are all of your rules. And I literally was like, I walked out and I was like, oh, I can't do anything. Sorry, Lyle. Just had another freak out moment. And I literally just watched Breaking Bad while I got sober and like went to meetings and went to school and like did that. And it was great. And I probably needed that many rules to get my butt in line. But then how to like expand and not be so tied to so much structure and so much like resistance to like temptation and all of that, when that didn't really exist in me anymore. I was like, oh, I can go be social with people. I am friends with people that drink. My husband drinks. You know, like it's okay. And the radical compassion, of course. And also like I'm able to fit in these other spaces because I felt like I couldn't exist because I was an addict in these spaces. And then I was told all of the problems I would have in my relationships because I'm an addict. Not to say that I don't have them, but it was handed of here's your roadmap. And it was like, well, I don't want to go on that roadmap entirely. Like, I don't want to leave. I had to leave a lot of people in my life to choose sobriety because a lot of people didn't choose sobriety with me. And by that choice alone, it was like boundary unable to be in relationship with is what I gathered from that to keep myself safe.
I think it's such a personal journey too.
Totally.
Right? Like where does the structure support and where does it feel confining?
And how do we find mentorship? And this goes perfect for the Holy School, but how do we find mentorship where we're able to listen and it's actually so in alignment with our channel that the guidance is just bringing us back to listen deeply, but from in a way where it's not, yeah, I can handle this and I'm going to go out there and do it. And then all of a sudden I'm out drinking again, right? How can it guide us in a way that supports? And that's kind of why I created the Holy School. I don't know about you, but I'm sure there's a bunch of people that you want to heal in your life that you might not be the voice or the person or the skin for their process, especially those you might love most.
Yeah, I think that's certainly been one of the more challenging things about the way that my awakening happened, so suddenly, so out of the blue. And it was such a radical departure from my community and the people that I know. And it so quickly became my compass and the most important thing in my life, that spiritual journey and that healing. And I have tried and failed many times to share my journey and my wisdom with the people that I love. And I've come to realize it's not for me to do. My journey is mine to walk, and their journey is theirs to walk, and what they choose to do, what they choose to take. It's not my business. So yeah, I think it's beautiful to kind of open community to hear more voices and to talk to different people. And it's really about, anybody can offer wisdom. But if we're looking outside and being oh, this is the way, there's something so wrong with that to me, right? So having so many people we can listen to and be oh, that voice, that resonates with me. That my inner knowing says this is the way, and trusting and returning that authority to ourselves to make our decisions in terms of who we want to talk to and how we want to live our lives, right? I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And so beautiful. I'm really glad you created this space. Yeah, I did the thing. Not that you're not. I mean, you're really good at doing the thing.
Keep going. Okay, no. But then the idea of that is once I find someone, this is my thing I want to follow. Apparently, it's so interesting. I was transforming, just
it's closing up outside.
Well, this is one of those flowers that opens in the morning, and as it gets high, it closes, and so every morning it opens.
I think it's a wildflower.
It is.
And it was chopped by the lawnmower, so I picked it up from the sidewalk.
It's actually an obnoxious weed. My husband has to spray these when he goes to work.
Really beautiful.
But they're beautiful. I'm always they might be obnoxious, but they're beautiful.
We don't have one.
Maybe these are the embodiments of me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think weeds are phenomenally impressive.
I think, they conquer the world. We can't even kill them off. We're trying with all of our might. Right? Yeah.
There's something to be said.
What resilience can we learn from weeds? And they're so deeply rooted that we just pick the top of them, but there's literally a planet of roots beneath the surface that we would need to literally re-soil the whole earth to get rid of weeds.
I love that metaphor for this live and for a community of spiritually empowered people. Truly, I do. So deeply rooted.
Yeah, so we just got to be deeply rooted. Oh, but the whole point is this is a magnet. This is the voice they hear, and it aligns deeply with me. It's just a reflection, right? And there's normally I have something to learn from this that is going to guide me. And so the idea of the Holy School, I've been studying education for a year. Getting my master's, and I'm now certified to become a teacher. I'm going to be Cortez High School's art teacher starting in August. So the big thing I learned about education, first off, I always knew it was screwed. I never really felt like I was taken care of in school.
Mm-hmm.
Felt hard for me. I don't fit in the normal compartment of a student. I got learning disability, all that stuff. So I already had that. And then I also had the uncomfortability-ness of like being a student. And I was so drawn to art. So why would I not be an art teacher and just be like a space holder for the kids that like
it's beautiful.
have anything to do like me?
You're lucky to have you.
Yeah, I have a big group of kids that one of them just pulled up outside and was like, hey, in her car last night. And she's a freshman, so she doesn't have her license. So Gisela, you're out. And so I was like, go home right now. And what are you doing? So anyways, making a difference wildly that they even steal their parents' card and come visit me on their way home from whatever they're doing in their high school. It's such a good influence. And so I've made a real impact. And the thing that I have found is that the ones that are, Gisela and being one of them is like, I'm supposed to do work with her. Mm-hmm. She was living in Farmington, a town an hour away, and her mom is a teacher as well, and they really wanted to move to Durango, and they found a place. She's like, will you go over there? So I went over there, and I gathered some stuff, and I did a ritual. I sat, prayed, did some things. Next day at school, I gave her the mason jar full of some stuff from her future lawn that she wanted, and I said, you sit, you pray, you dream, you do whatever you do, like connect with this, and like put on whatever altar you want, and here you go. And then she called me later that night saying that she got the place. So they live there now. Mm-hmm. And I didn't do anything. I just was like empowering her to believe it's possible, right? She's an alignment's going to happen, right? It was just the simple thing of me going over there and sitting over there. But when I think of when we're drawn to people to that effect of like me going out of my way to go to her lawn and do that as like just a human that knows her, it's because I feel some sort of magnet. We're supposed to exchange stuff. And what I've learned from her in this, and I know that she's always like, thank you for being my best friend and teaching me and, all this other stuff. But what I've learned from her is like a reawakening of what it's like to be innocent and to wonder again. Mm. And I went over there and we saged her place. And I gave her very simple directions. I just said, here, sage, it cleanses. You can speak anything you want into the space. You can declare any spaces, anything. It's an intention setting as you clear the space and just whatever. And where she went and how she did it was something I've never experienced before. And I was like, well, that's how she heard it. Well, that's really cool. It was a really cool experience to learn how to like, maybe the way that I'm doing everything can be done a different way. Mm-hmm. So I went home and like challenged myself, which again comes back to this theme, but there was like, when I started to learn about education, that magnet is happening and it's actually ancient. I feel like I've lived plenty of lives with Gisela. I think we're all just lined up in some weird concoction of like working through karma with the same people. And there's people there that are in the same line that we're all working towards the same thing. And then there's those people that are also our medicine people who normally trigger or are obstacles or heartbreak or whatever that are constantly there to work to karma until we're all on the same team. Like it's just us trying to all get on the same team or something. Mm-hmm. And so when I started thinking about that in education, I was like, if there's a magnet, then they should be able to go sit circle with that person and bring their intention. So if I'm magnetic to this thing and I know I need to learn something, if they have a structure and a private space set up, there's private cohort space is what we call it. It's really like the ancient way of learning of sitting in circle. I think of old tribes and communities where like there's plenty of fires. I went to Israel and there was like 10 fires at this one place before we hiked up Masada and I redid my bat mitzvah and it was really empowering. And I was looking around and I was like, shit, everyone just went to where they felt called to have that night. Mm-hmm. And there was a talent show that we threw and there was a poetry thing and there was a bird ceremony and everyone just did whatever they wanted, but they were magnet to the people they were supposed to have that experience with that night. So what if we did it in a monthly or yearly way at the Holy School? Like I'm gonna investigate for a month with you. And this is how my study is set up is like a couple Zooms, a couple exercises, a couple activities. It's all based off of my people's intention though, but I give a certain amount of energy into that space. Mm-hmm. For people who are sitting circle with me in the same breath. I'm asking them, share with me what you're finding so that we're all learning from one another in like a really beautiful space.
Yeah, I think that learning to trust ourselves, trust where you're led, trust what you're drawn to. And
that's such a good point.
It doesn't have to look any certain way.
Totally.
I was not taught, I'll speak for myself, to listen to myself and to follow my own path. I don't think that many of us are in our culture, right? So somebody speaks to you, a flower speaks to you, a place you want to go walk, like start to rebuild that trust in your body knows the way for you better than anyone else can. And yeah, I think I'm excited for this digital space and also for the world to be ready for us to sit in circle physically again, like just to be together, to witness, to share stories. It's both a giving and receiving. Like it's such a gift. It feels like to do both of those at the same time. So yeah.
Well, with that being said, do you want to introduce yourself? You were talking about some very radical things.
Compassion.
And no, the other night when you were saying about the book, and I'm curious if you were to like introduce your arenas that you are interested in, the arenas that you investigate, the arenas that you study from or coach with or whatever. If you were to like say that, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but if you were to try and articulate your arenas of wisdom.
Sure. Yeah, you're totally putting me on the spot. But my particular journey has been what I'll call a coming home. So that's in essence, what I walk and what I teach, specifically for women, right? How to come home to self and who we truly are. And for me, that in most of my life did not include spiritual roots. And now that feels like the most important piece, right? How can we reconnect deeply to who we are as spiritual beings interconnected with all of life and all of the earth? And specifically the lenses that I've looked at as I've walked that path has been, trauma. I mentioned a little bit, intergenerational trauma and how that impacts our nervous systems, our ability to feel safe in our bodies and in the world. And really walking those pieces of ourselves, like we were talking about earlier, that feel hurt or critical or scary or unwanted, like back home to love, back home to our hearts. So there's a lot of different tools that I've collected over my own healing journey, like including kind of embodiment and yoga and just general wisdom and ways that we can reframe what we're looking at and how we see the world. And I don't like structure. I don't like boxes. So to call myself one thing feels limiting, but that in essence is what I would like to offer to the world, like both through my own path and for anyone else who feels called to walk over this too.
Great. I can hear the dumpster.
I don't know if you even heard that with the background.
I do want to say something about Anna though, because can I articulate a piece about you?
Sure, yeah.
The thing about Anna is, and I think it's because we've done so many other things or just talked through so many things together. We've worked together a lot just in being in relationship and digesting each other's life and offering wisdom.
Through some very big
transitions. Yeah. I'm sure that will come up at some point.
No, for another time.
It's a whole other life. And the thing about Anna that I find so fascinating is that you have this intellectual mind that needs to be able to articulate the energetics that are happening within you and to investigate them in a way where you actually feel like you know how a system or organism or how a structure works. And so I see you do it with companies. I see you do it when you even asked about the Holy School. I kind of when I invited you to dream weaving, all of the things was very much okay, tell me, okay, cool, let me break it down. There's always and so in the way that you also support is safe because there's a way you're able to break it down for the mind to get instead of, there's a lot of embodiment workers where the hardest point of an embodiment worker, mine included, working with other people is just get out of here. And we talked about the other night, just stop it. But that actually is super vital to have that be intact during it. But I don't have to intact this to my body.
Yeah.
And so that first initial drop in, you're able to do in a way that actually is articulated for people who are wired like you, who are dying to be deeply spiritual, who don't know, or maybe are just more intellectual or more analytical of figuring out the how-ness so that they can settle this, because this is actually needed and it's super vital, and it's like, it's actually a superpower. We don't want to diminish it or get out of it, but rather just settle into it so that we settle into what's below it, which is the rest of our fucking body.
Right. I mean, it's the union, right?
Yeah.
Like mind and body. I love that you said that, because for so long, and still even, like the way I've articulated my journey has been like from head to heart. Like I lived so much of my life above the neck, like just constantly in my mind. I didn't even know that my mind wasn't who I was. And so that dropping into my compass, the way that I live now is from the heart, but it doesn't reject the mind. Like my ability to understand that journey and how the different pieces have impacted. I love it now. And to reject the mind, right? Like that's again what we were talking about before. Instead, it's to embrace it. That's a part of who I am.
And your vitality to the spiritual world, because you're able to articulate it to those who aren't able to grasp or don't want to grasp, or there's fear about grasping or whatever, because it's like the scary thing that feels very outside of them when actually it's within them. And you're able to do that with people. So like, I think of the people that just that isn't natural for, and like you're a magnet in all the ways for those people to like actually have some sort of opening to heavens, hells, gods, goddesses, their own internal whatever that is, atheism, just to grab onto something and hold it, even the belief in nothing is super powerful, because that means everything's within you. So it's just another spirituality.
No, I love that you said that, because where I came from when I talk about this departure, like I was an atheist before my awakening, and most of my community still is. So how to make sense of what happened in the world, right? In a community that actively disbelieves and has
like in
so
conversation
much stigma about what spirituality really is, right? It's woo, it's not real, it's a crutch. Like how to come to terms with what that really is, and how to talk about it, and how to live it in a way that feels authentic, because it's real for every single human being. Like I know in the deepest part of myself that that's true.
And it would only be navigated if it's softly navigated, and the way you articulate is a way of softly navigating. So just be like, psh,
right,
get in there,
right, totally.
Just open your crown.
And it's like, it's not an easy journey, but such a beautiful one. So that softness.
Yeah, I remember when I took my mom, I'm a Kundalini teacher as well. I became certified, and took my mom to our first class, and I was really into it. And it was like, oh, really? And the instructor.
Sometimes they get a little weird.
Yes. If you've never been to a Kundalini, sometimes we make you guys walk around like little elephants with you. Just like, keep walking. Yeah, you're doing great. Satnam. But it's so good.
So good.
It's so good. I love it. And there's a whole can of worms with all of Kundalini right now too. Well, it's kind of settling, which is great, but it's all holy. Every guru has probably done something that might have you think twice about following them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know. I've fucked up a shit ton. The thing we beat around the bush around was my biggest breakdown in my life, and it was there to help me navigate. Because I messed up. We all do. And like, I'm not trying to make it that shouldn't, we should think it's okay that the things that happened. If you know about what happened with Yogi Bhajan and all the things that have exposed and whatever else, I believe that trauma is given to us. And it's not necessarily by the person who does it. We can blame them. But I think it's divinely orchestrated for our healing, our karma, this is all my belief, and who knows. When we softly open and we look at, why was I given these things? I can either be a victim of them or a martyr of them, or stay here or whatever, or there's this breaking opening of being like, how do I radically accept everyone and still be authentic?
Well, and let me be clear, that starts internally. Like we can only radically accept and have compassion for the world around us when we're able to do that in ourselves. Whatever we're rejecting in the world, there's some integration that gets to happen
I love when I'm like, oh, you're triggered? Okay, cool stuff. What is that? That's in here. Shit. You know, like
Everything starts with you.
yeah, every single time. Like, no, not this one. This one's all them. I can get really righteous in that, right? But it's so true. Thank you for articulating that. 'Cause, yeah, that is something. There was a point where I was going after that, but maybe there wasn't. Maybe it's not important.
Yeah, I think we could talk for like.
We could talk for forever. Well, how long has it been? 54, 55 minutes. Okay, great. So we should start winding down, huh? Should we start doing that?
Yeah, sure.
Is first off, we're gonna go take some beautiful pictures. We have another contributor here in town, and we're gonna go to this little town called Mancus. We're gonna go have some fun and go see what we find.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our beautiful day that we have planned.
Super excited. This is a beautiful part of the world. It's not where I'm from. I'm risking taking my hat off, even though I'm probably super sweaty.
Oh, it's okay. So if you're not in the holy school, there's no way you'd be watching this. So,
but maybe one day you will be later. So
I hope this magnet reaches you, however it does. Are there any last words you want to say to the holy school?
I just wish you a really beautiful day, wherever your journey takes you. So super happy to be here.
And for those who have been feeling, I found out it's a Cancer moon. I'm not good with this moon stuff.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, neither do I. But I had a tremendous heartbreaking heart opening of just matter.
And
I
broke down yesterday too.
Great. So, and that's the fourth person I've heard. So you're not alone.
Tears are healing. Love them.
Let them rinse your heart, as one of my mentors once told me. Okay. Ciao for now.
Bye, everybody.